That would help. So, hello and welcome to my channel once again. I'd like to start out with, if you like my content, if you like my original videos and anything that I've done, please always hit like and subscribe on all of my videos. It always goes a long way of getting my content out to other people. I know my content has a very sparse rollout, and that's going to be the way it is for the foreseeable future. So I want to start this out by stating a few things that may or may not be obvious to new people to my content. I'm going to preface this because this is very important. I am a pre-order No Man's Sky player. So what that means is I pre-ordered the game and I played from day one launch. Now, I'm not saying this is a badge of honor. I'm not saying this is stating that my opinion is more valuable than anybody else's. But what I want to do is preface that in lieu of what is going on currently with No Man's Sky and the 4.0 waypoint update. So there's a few things that we're going to have to go over. So, as with anything, gaming is a time investment. And in terms of No Man's Sky being an open world space survival exploration game, time investment is an important thing. You're not given tools that are time investment reducing. Exploration, crafting, harvesting take time in the game. So the No Man's Sky community is very dedicated. That needs to be brought up. And I know you hear this about every gaming community. You hear this about World of Warcraft players, COD players, Fortnite players, but No Man's Sky community in particular is very unique. They have stuck around when most gaming communities would have headed for the hills and never looked back. They're a rare breed. In many ways, they have an unusual comparability to the Star Citizen community, and as in, even when things are at their worst, they will not leave. For better or for worse. And this is where we're going to get into the core things about 4.0, why I think 4.0 is quite possibly the first misstep that Hello Games has made since the launch of No Man's Sky. And I don't want to say this in a negative. This needs to be a learning experience for not only Hello Games, but the community. So, No Man's Sky has a unique history of communication. In one way, they over-communicated, built up hype, built up over-expectations, and to their own detriment. To the other side, they understood when to shut up, disappear, and do what they needed to do to rebuild their reputation. Hence the undergoodening of No Man's Sky. That video is great. I recommend everybody go watch it for people who do not understand why the community in No Man's Sky is so dedicated. That being said, post-launch, the development cycle, patch cycle, has been met with a level of communication and community interaction, specifically from Sean Murray himself, that borders on the line of parasocial, but also borders on the line of unique. Because unlike many gaming companies that are a behemoth, that have internal functionings wherein minuscule changes take an inordinate amount of time, or often never implemented on, or often never addressed by communities, Hello Games is very receptive to their communities saying, hey, we don't like this. We don't think this is a good idea. Or, hey, guess what? You gave us something broken. Can you please fix it? Without a doubt, Hello Games has been one of the most receptive companies in terms of responding to their player base. So when it came to 4.0 waypoint and tampering with what is one of the largest and most important time sinks in the game, enhancements for your ship, your multi-tool, and your backpack, which includes power, storage space, and upgradability. We deserved a small amount of communication given the implications that this would have to our time investment. Now, I want to preface this. Imagine you spent 15 years working to re-roof your house, re-side your house, replace the gutters on your house, redo all of the yard work on your house, redo all of the concrete work in terms of the steps and the pathways and your patio and your deck. You spent years working hard to redo those things, and then one day somebody comes with a sledgehammer and knocks it all down. Now that might sound hyperbolic to you, but that's what the fundamental core of Waypoint did to the hardcore community. And I don't even want to say hardcore. I want to see the dedicated community in No Man's Sky. Because calling us hardcore is really facetious, because there's nothing hardcore about No Man's Sky. But what there is a gameplay loop that requires time investment and makes you feel rewarded by becoming overpowered. Now maybe that's a bad thing, and maybe that's what Waypoint is trying to address, be it through the nerfing of certain resources that were exceptionally valuable. Activated indium being the key one. Activated indium mines were gold mines. You could earn billions of in-game credit within hours setting up a mine. But there weren't enough sinks for that economic unit, so you just build up these amassments of money for no reason. Yeah, did they make re-rolling ships and getting things faster? Yeah, of course they did. But for what? For what? There's nothing competitive about No Man's Sky and its gameplay. There is no open world PvP looter shooter element to No Man's Sky. So on one hand, the changes are not fundamentally destructive to No Man's Sky, but they do represent a fundamental change in the gameplay of No Man's Sky that affects arguably the most ardent supporters of the game. So when you saw the vitriol online and the players threatening to leave, you have to understand that that's where that comes from. Now I'm going to say something very controversial. If the inventory changes in 4.0 Waypoint were the tipping point for you to leave the game, you already had 1 foot out the door. 6 years is a lot of time to invest in a video game. I don't think I've played many other games as long as No Man's Sky. My top 3: EverQuest Online, Ark Survival Evolved, and No Man's Sky. All total, I've probably invested about 12,000 hours. I'm not joking. 12,000 hours. That's like raising a child from the age of birth to like 5. It's an insane investment of time. And I will say, as a hardcore player of No Man's Sky, I've taken breaks. I took almost 9 months off to heavily invest in Ark Survival Evolved, a game I loved and still love to this day. But I came back every time to No Man's Sky. Why? Because No Man's Sky fills a very unique niche in my style of gameplay. I don't like MMOs anymore. I don't like open world PvP. I don't like boring fetch quests, scripted gameplay. I like to do things my own way. And I arguably will say that that's the base of most of the No Man's Sky community. So, let's delve deeper into 4.0 Waypoint, why I think it was a bad idea, why I don't think it really warrants being a 4.0 update. So we're going to start with the communication that came out of Sean Murray directly, leading up to the announcement that No Man's Sky was going on the Switch, arguably a captive platform, which I don't understand why. I mean, it brought technical changes to the game in terms of graphics fidelity, optimization, probably them better understanding their own game code base. I don't know. But one of the glaring things that came out of Sean Murray's mouth is every 0.0 iteration, meaning 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, was a platform introduction. Well, no, actually, It wasn't. The whole core premise of 0.0 iterations in gaming is 1.0 is your launch. 2.0 is usually your first DLC expansion, is your first large world expanding amount of content. 3.0 is another iteration on systems and fidelity, and you get my point. 4.0 iterations of No Man's Sky were never, ever about introductions to platforms. They were always about world resets, seed generation improvements, fidelity improvements, new systems, new resources, new assets. It was always bringing something new and fundamentally game-changing to No Man's Sky. It was never platform introductions. So when Sean Murray said this about 4.0, I immediately got very nervous, and I was warning people. Before Sean Murray said, quell your expectations as to what 4.0 is going to represent, I was telling people, this is a warning sign. Now, I want to be clear. This year has been one of the most development-intensive and iteration-intensive years for Hello Games and No Man's Sky. This year, they really dialed it up to 10. The art team, the code-base team, the development team, they've done more this year, arguably, than they have in the last 3, in terms of introduction and cadence of content. Now, what did that content actually provide? Well, we got Expeditions. Expeditions, arguably, I view as the best way to introduce a brand new player to No Man's Sky. Much better than the existing in-game 40-hour story tutorial, which is mostly provided to you by text, and an oddly clunky introduction to systems that don't fully explain them. What Expeditions was introduced you to a multiplayer community of great players, helpful players, that with the buff start in the game, introduced you to core gameplay aspects of the game, arguably the most fun portions of the game, with the community. So you were never alone in your experience of playing the game for the first time. Expeditions were great, and Expeditions gave you unique time-gated rewards, unique pets, unique customizations, unique ships, unique frigates. So what we also got over the arguably past year to 2 years was an incredible increase to the fidelity of No Man's Sky. Switching over to Vulkan shaders improved the fidelity of No Man's Sky. Introducing DLSS and FSR to No Man's Sky drastically modernized the game. This is by far, and Obsidian Ant said this, No Man's Sky is by far, stylistically, one of the most beautiful space games to ever exist. And I challenge anybody to play this game for a few hours and tell me that you don't, at one point, find some grand vista that just lets you sit there and go, holy crap. You know, this may not be my style, but this is pretty. So then what else did we get? Well, we got more requests from the community. We got sandworms, finally. We got player fleets. We got frigates. Better base building. Better freighter base building. Improved inventory. Improved so many things that the community has asked for, we've gotten. So when 4.0 came around, there was a lot of speculation as to what we would get. And yeah, I also went that way. But I was realistic in what I wanted, and what I think the community was really looking for. 4.0 should have introduced, if they didn't have the time to actually go balls to the walls on 4.0, we should have gotten just some core things that the community was asking for. What we got instead was surface level, and something that Hello Games unfortunately has been starting to do, which is introduce things that negate existing things. Now, I was always ardently against taking out the need to explore planets. And over the course of the last couple years, especially with the introduction of the anomaly slash nexus, you have no reason whatsoever to explore planets. Because crafting recipes, building recipes, resource recipes, all of the things that you used to have to interact with settlement structures and iconography and other things on the planet that you had to interact with to get those things, we're now in one central location in the multiplayer hub. Before, you used to actually have to go to factory buildings, earn a factory chit by deciphering a very simplistic puzzle, and then you could get access to those recipes. And it was time consuming, yes, and for some people it was boring, but it gave you a reason to be in the world all the time. So 4.0 has done the exact same thing again. While it's streamlined arguably other elements of the game, those elements are not things that the players actually really functionally interact with very much. I don't know many people that are lore whores for No Man's Sky. So they streamlined how you can view and realize all of the lore that you uncovered. Well, fine, okay, but is that something that the community ever really asked for? No. They introduced the ability to highlight things in your inventory based on use. Well, that's fine, but I wanted a sort button. Literally wanted just a sort button. A functional inventory tool that every game on this planet has. That's what I wanted. That's what the community wanted. That's not what we got. The only notable gameplay introduction that we got this time was the resource rocket. So what's the resource rocket? Well, ironically, they limit your tech, they limit the stack in your tech, and then they gave you something new that you had to install as tech, you had to fuel. It is a rocket that you call down from orbit, you load up with resources that you've harvested, and then you launch back into space, and it interacts with the trade markets to sell. Well, that's fine. The art asset is amazing. The animations are arguably freaking amazing. Nothing is more satisfying than watching the damn thing take off and land. But why do you need a galactic trade terminal anymore? Why do you ever need to leave a planet now and go into space? You don't. You arguably don't. So why did we need this? And this is where No Man's Sky it kind of doesn't have an identity as a space game, because it doesn't know what it wants to do, and it seems like an amalgamation of disparate ideas that don't really connect well together anymore. And if anything, 4.0 should have been a refinement pass, where okay, we have all these redundant things, we need to slim things down. Arguably, their use for 4.0 waypoint was to finally make the new player experience and the confusion and the one of the things you hear a lot from returning players is, well, it seems so confusing and involved now that I don't know where to start. That's something that could have been arguably remedied with a streamlining pass, making inventory more functional, removing the redundancies and the systems that didn't really work well in the game, streamlining all that, and then introducing basic things that we wanted. But we didn't get that. And the communication after this and what they've done to remedy the problems with Waypoint kind of set the tone and maybe tells us what the life cycle for No Man's Sky is going to be going forward. We're 6 years in. So, what did they do to remedy this? Did they offer you an option to revert back to the old inventory style? No. Did they come out and say, hey, you know what? We never meant... In No Man's Sky, technology... You used to have separate inventories for technology and your base inventory. The technology upgrades were stacked to the base upgrade plus 3 extensions in your tech inventory, but you could also then do another run of tech upgrades in your basic inventory to augment and overpower your upgrades. So if that was never their intention, now mind you, when I say that, they left that in the game for 3 years. If that was never their intention, there should have been communication prior to Waypoint stating, look, we're going to tell you something you may not like, but you need to understand where we're coming from. This was never our intention with tech upgrades. Tech upgrades were never supposed to make you feel over-empowered and negate the idea of exploration and upgrading in No Man's Sky. We are going to revert back to the base way that we did upgrades in the game, and we're going to refund your tech, and we're going to upgrade the power level of the tech so that this doesn't have a hard impact on the community. But that's not the communication that we got. They launched Waypoint, they changed the inventories, and the worst thing about this is they didn't include the buffing of tech upgrades with the launch of the update. They did the tech buffs on an update this week, 3 days after Waypoint came out. So what does that signal to me? That signals to me that this update was rushed and maybe shouldn't have come out. I'm going to say that now. This update was unnecessary. Absolutely unnecessary. They could have done the Switch launch and held 4.0 to December. Launched 4.0 with actual feature richness. Maybe with another expedition. Or tie it in with the expedition redo that they do in the December anyway. So not only would we have had brand new content in the base game, but we could have redone the expeditions at a time when new players would be coming in to check out the update, check out the game, and want to learn how to play. They would have had a whole community in there, in the expeditions with them, teaching them and helping them along the way. Instead, you got a very derisive update that was feature empty, included a lack of communication, and negated the time investment that core players put into the game. Am I upset enough to never play the game again? No, absolutely not. And I think, honestly, that's childish. That's childish. I understand where some people are coming from. But again, I have to say this. If this inventory change was enough to make you quit, you already had 1 foot out the door. And I'm not going to be sorry that you're going, because you've put in your 6 years. You've done your duty. You've done your penance, and maybe there's something better out there for you on the horizon. Good luck to you. And thank you for being part of the community. This has always been the mentality of the No Man's Sky community. I need to say this again. This has been one of the best gaming communities I've ever been involved with. It is a community that thirsts for knowledge, interaction, community, loves science and space. I've had some of the best conversations about such inane things as colonizing planets and sci-fi shows like The Expanse with the community. Things that, you know, how many World of Warcraft players can say they've sat in World of Warcraft and, you know, talked about Lord of the Rings or you know, anything? They don't. This community is unique. So, I'm going to bring up something again that, you know, people may not want to hear. And that's, every game has a life cycle. Every game has a life cycle. And some games go on maintenance mode, and some games just die. And No Man's Sky is 6 years old. Yes, 6 years old. A number of high-profile games have come out and failed, come out and succeeded during the life cycle of No Man's Sky, and No Man's Sky has kept chugging along. I don't think I'll ever stop playing No Man's Sky until the point where it's unplayable on Windows, on a graphics card. I will never stop playing it. But No Man's Sky is eventually going to stop its development cycle, and its community is going to dwindle. It's inevitable. I don't think Hello Games should be doing things to rush that. So, we have November and December left for 2022. What can be done in those 2 months? Well, inevitably we are probably going to get the Expedition redo in December. What I would like to see is, since those only usually include the existing year's expeditions, please take all of the expedition rewards for the expeditions that are not going to get replayed this year and put them in the Quicksilver shop in the game. Even if you make them limited time. If they're a month-long addition to the Quicksilver store, that's fine. Or, and hear me out, we also have the Rusted Metal store from the Procedural Freighters, which has gotten nothing new in it at all. How about you put it in there and encourage players to actually start doing more of the Procedural Freighters, because they're pretty damn cool. Or you have 2 months. You've shown that you can do procedural settlements on planets. So, how about you give us procedural dungeons like Procedural Freighters on planets? One little caveat, and maybe ship painting. Please, hello? 1 or 2 things. 1 or 2 carrots to maybe quell the unfortunate negativity that waypoints brought to the community, and give us a nice little end of the year, Merry Christmas, we're taking time with our families type of deal. Because I will say this, I don't want to push away people that are playing the game with me right now. I really don't want that to happen. And inevitably, if this is going to start being the communication cycle and the development cycle of No Man's Sky going forward, I think they need to be more transparent with us about what their intentions are, the fact that they do have, by Sean Murray's own admission, something very big in the works, whether that's No Man's Sky 2, whether that's an entirely new IP, we have no idea. But if that is starting to stretch the team a bit, tell us. I would be fine with No Man's Sky not getting any significant updates for 6 months while they work on the other IP. Because inevitably, Hello Games is a company that needs to make money to support the people working for them. They're a team of, I think, 26 people now. They're still not that big. So anything they do requires a lot of investment and time and work from the people that they have. Stretching them across things is never a good idea. Crunch is a bad thing. I don't think anybody wants the team at Hello Games to kill themselves trying to make things. So just Sean, we love you. We love the team at Hello Games. While we don't know them by name and we don't know them by face, we love you guys. You guys have given us a surmountable amount of fun with your games. So please, just don't start eroding the goodwill that you have with your community. Because I look forward to the next thing that you may be bringing to us. I didn't necessarily like the last Campfire. It's not my style of game. But I'm cautiously excited about what you are going to bring to us in the future. Don't destroy the goodwill you have with us. Please. So once again, like and subscribe. Please feel free to view all of my content. And remember, always be kind to each other. And be kind to the team at Hello Games. They always try their best. They never deserve any of the vitriol they received at launch. And please, for the love of God, do not harass them online. Thank you.